The topic for this lesson is family horror. And the first thing I want to talk about is the 1970s and the horror auteur and the rise of directors that made horror films almost exclusively. So people like Wes Craven, Bob Clark, Brian De Palma, Tobe Hooper, David Cronenberg, people who are still directing films today really got their start in the 1970s, directing low budget and in some cases slightly higher budget horror films. So this group of films are referred to as family horror films, not because they're made for families and it's good family fun. It's actually because the family is a central part of the film and it's used to symbolize more widespread societal ills. So whatever is bad for a person is bad for the family, or whatever is bad for the family is bad for the country. That's usually the message in this. And we saw a little bit of that in Night of the Living Dead with the family that was definitely very dysfunctional, and we had some issues with that. That's definitely kind of getting into that vibe that family horror films have. So they also deal with subjects of class division, sexual difference, and social institutions. And by social institutions, I mean hospitals, social services, police officers, and the police force in general, things like that, the Army, Navy, etc. All of those things are kind of put under the microscope. And they're considered to be politically progressive as much as horror films ever really are. And part of that is that early to mid-70s feeling, that post-Vietnam kind of malaise that the entire country was kind of feeling, kind of questioning our identity as a country. So the film for this lesson is Deathdream. It's also called The Dead of Night, which is what your book refers to it. That was the original title of the film. For some reason they had to change the title for the DVD. Directed by Bob Clark, who also directed A Christmas Story, strangely enough. This is one of the only horror films to deal directly with the Vietnam War and its effect on veterans, though, as we've mentioned before, many films were indirectly influenced by the war and its aftermath. We definitely saw that in Night of the Living Dead, and a lot of the other horror films we're going to watch in this class definitely, and also sci-fi, we're going to kind of tap into that post-Vietnam era and the attitudes that people had around that time. So this is both a family horror film because it deals with the family and the repercussions of the horror in the film on this particular family, and it's also a zombie film. So we get, actually I think we have 3 zombie films in this class. So a young man is killed in Vietnam, but he comes back home anyway, and he just happens to be a zombie. This is also inspired by the short story The Monkey's Paw, which some of you might have read in high school or junior high, and the ultimate message of that particular story is be careful of what you wish for, because you might get it. And it might not quite be what you wanted in the first place. Enjoy.